I would say don't be so afraid. We're all in some sense faking it. No one is better than you. Some days you'll be the teacher and some days you'll get schooled. And it's all good. You have to learn to be comfortable and humble with both. Be a good person and work hard in both your professional and personal life. And don't get too excited or too sad about what people have to say. Actions are everything, and remember that when you speak. Will your actions match your words, or will you have to backtrack later? I feel like that's something that we're always learning and adjusting to.
Welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast. In this podcast, you will experience wisdom, advice, and stories from creatives all over the world. Your host is Amani Roberts, who is a DJ, music producer, professor, avid book reader, and developing salsa dancer. On the show, we love to share the stories of creative professionals, especially people who've gone from the corporate life to the creative life. Once again, welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Welcome to episode 22 of the Amani Experience Podcast. Today we talk to Erika Crespo from Stretch Synergy. I have two favorite parts of this episode. First is when Erika shares why writing is her first love. I love how she talks about that. And then also the general advice she shares with us just about kind of being an entrepreneur and surviving. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Please remember to subscribe and rate the podcast. And to the show we go. Welcome back to the show. I'm going to read our guest bio for today, and then we'll get right to the show. So our guest today has a passion for storytelling, and it led her to study film at USC and work in post-production upon graduation. That same passion led her to social media, where she reconnected with her first love, writing. The power of content to go viral, to motivate people to make a purchase, organize a protest, support a charity, become the loyal followers of a person, a company, or a brand really blew her mind. She knew that it was a space where she could make an impact. And I would like to introduce Erika Crespo to the show. Welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Amani.
You're welcome. It is our honor to have you. So we're happy to have you here today. We do a little geographical check-in. So right now we're in the home office of Stretch Synergy in Long Beach, California, correct?
Yes, love working from my home in this beautiful beach city.
Yes. So tell us, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chino Hills, which is about an hour away from here in Southern California.
Southern California. And you went to USC, correct?
Yes, I'm SoCal girl all the way.
A loyal Trojan fan as well. Tell us about your major, because you have a very unique major.
Yes, I went to the USC Film School of Cinematic Arts, majored in critical studies and minored in psychology and law. What drew me to film, kind of like what you said in your intro of me, was my passion for storytelling. I did a lot of writing growing up, worked on the high school newspaper, and have always had a passion for it. And when I came to USC and discovered their film program and discovered film editing and specifically, it's just another means of telling a story. And that's what really drew me to that.
Tell us, we read in your bio that your first love is writing. Why is that the case?
I think I express myself best in writing. So this is a big deal. I'm doing a podcast right now where I have to talk. That, and I've always been drawn to it. I've always been good at it. I've always loved just creating stories, and not necessarily made up stories. I really love talking to people and hearing their stories, and then putting that on paper, I guess.
Right.
Was where it started growing up.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, you were a freelance writer for a couple of magazines as well when you first came out of school?
Yeah, I kind of did freelance writing through high school, through college, and then here and there after college as well, while I was working at a film company right after school. And, I don't do that so much anymore. Stretch Synergy definitely has 100% of my attention, but it was a great experience for me. And it really, again, it helped, with my love of journalism and writing in general to do that.
And then as a film major, I know you love movies. What are some of your favorite movies that come to mind?
Oh my goodness.
It can be old movies, new movies.
Okay, one of my favorite movies, I have a lot of favorite movies. Okay,
give us a few.
Train Spotting.
Oh, good
Ewan
one.
McGregor has to be, he's definitely my favorite actor. Anything he's in, Big Fish, for example. I love that movie. It's so dreamy. What else? I mean, I could list a ton of movies, but those are the two that come to mind right now.
That's a good list. And even though you're used to writing, you can talk on the podcast. We have some mimosas to keep us company, so we're going to be all right.
It's Friday before Christmas. We're allowed.
This is true. Stretch Synergy, that's your company. Tell us the origin, how the name came to be, because it has to do with your love of cats. So explain to us how that came along.
We'll just give away the fact that I'm kind of a crazy cat lady right now.
I didn't say crazy, you did.
So a little bit of background of that name. So Stretch was the name of my first cat growing up. And I love cats, but more so what cats represent to me is they're curious, right? Curiosity killed the cat. They're investigative. They want to know more. And when I was thinking of a name for my social media firm, and I was thinking of what social media means for me and how do I want to help brands or organizations or people to utilize it? Well, there's so much noise on social media, as I'm sure you know, so much noise everywhere right now, everywhere. So how do we make someone or an organization stand out? Well, you have to give them a story, and you have to make their target audience curious about them, want to know more about a certain brand or an organization. So I felt, well, one of our taglines is creating curious audiences on behalf of brands everywhere, striking that curiosity for these companies. So there's the cat. The cat is a curious creature. Synergy, obviously, is kind of like the definition of that word is combining a whole lot of elements to work together. So what social media, a whole lot of elements, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, blogging, graphics, website design, podcasts, like what we're doing right now, it's all in an ecosystem of a brand. It has to have synergy to work.
This is true. Now, as a sidebar, if the audience hears me refer to Erika as Baby Red, there's a story behind that. We used to work together in this office, and we would always talk and share music back and forth, and sometimes we tease each other. And whenever we tease Erika, she would get mad or flustered or whatever, and her cheeks would turn red. So we came up with the nickname Baby Red for her. So just if the audience hears me slip up and call her Baby Red, that's where that came from. That's a quick story about that. So my little storytelling, attempt.
I blush very easily, and I have
Yes.
big cheeks. So.
But it's good. It's all love. It's all love. So what was the point in time when you decided, okay, enough is enough. It's time for me to leave the corporate life in terms of working for someone else and pursue my own creative venture? When was the point in time when you decided to do that?
Honestly, when I realized I had the tools to make it happen, I love meeting people. I'm not afraid to network, and most of all, I'm really confident in the work I produce. It wasn't planned. I happened to start getting my own freelance work outside of quote unquote corporate life, and it got to the point where I realized I was focusing more on my outside work and thought, why don't I try to make something out of this? I'm really passionate about running my own show. I'm really good at, again, the work I produce.
True.
Let's do this. Let's just jump, I guess.
Okay. And you jumped. And jump you made. It's been how many years?
4
4 years.
4.5.
Four and a half. Time flies.
It's crazy.
And what do you feel have been some of your most valuable lessons you've learned in these 4.5 years in terms of running your own show?
There's a lot of lessons, Amani. I feel like we could do a whole podcast just talking about the lessons that we've learned by going out on our own. But you're going out on your own, you're going to be tested, you're going to be questioned, and you're going to have a lot on your plate. Sometimes all at the same time. You need to have a bit of a thick skin, which is something was a learning process, still is a learning process for me, and I think you too.
For all of us, yes, agreed.
So there's a lot of lessons I've learned, and there's a lot that I'm still learning. And just as I grow, as Stretch Synergy grows, as the type of clients we take on grow, it's constantly adapting
Yes, adapting is a very common theme amongst entrepreneurs. Very true. Cool. In your opinion, what is important for creative professionals to succeed in today's business environment?
Drive, passion, and guts. I think, just by definition of those words, you have to have, especially as creative professionals. Sometimes I think we get mislabeled as being maybe more, what's the word? Maybe not as thick-skinned or confident. We're more in our little bubble, whatever it is we're being creative with, whether we're writing, whether we're drawing, whether we're making graphic design, and not always are we thought of as someone who's also a leader.
Okay.
Just because of our creative background as opposed to maybe a business or finance background. So you have to be able to show that you are also a leader, as well as being a creative professional.
And what do you do? How have you shown that you're a leader? We know you've gotten numerous awards. One of them that's most impressive is you were one of Long Beach's top 40 under 40 winners a couple of years ago. So we knew then you were well on your way. What other ways do you show your leadership skills within your space?
I think, and again, this has all been a learning process. Delegating. I have an amazing small team that I've been crafting with Stretch Synergy, knowing that no one can do everything.
Hello.
And even if you can, you're not going to do it 100% perfectly. So you have to realize when to let go of the reins a little bit, bring people in who are better at some things than you are. And bring them on as a part of your journey as you build your team. Good
learning. What was the turning point in your career in terms of when did you realize, all right, I made the jump and this is working and I can do this?
For me, making the jump was the turning point. That I actually have a very vivid memory of the first Monday that I was working for myself, and I went to a coffee shop down in Long Beach that you and I have gone to a lot to work, Amani, and there yes. I was, a full day in front of me, and it was just all me. What do I do? How do I manage? What's the first phone call I make? It was very cognizant at that point that I am my own boss and I have to make this work, and if no one's going to be telling me what to do, so I better be able to tell myself what to do and listen,
Good. That's Linden's, right? That's where we were?
Yep, Linden Public.
Yes.
Shout out. Maybe they'll give us a free coffee.
Maybe, if you're ever trekking around downtown Long Beach and you walk into Linden's, you could see Eric and I sitting there working together. That's a famous meeting point for us. Why do you love what you do? I actually get this question a lot. I think people like to ask entrepreneurs, why do you love what you do? And for me, my question really hasn't changed much in these 4 years. And for me, it's really how much I get to learn about such a variety of industries, cultures, backgrounds, people. I've had clients in the healthcare space, the wine industry, gadgets and gizmos for your smartphone. Like, I graduated from a film school. Why would I have been introduced to these types of industries? I probably wouldn't have. And there's something really special about being engulfed in a variety of industries, and becoming a little bit of an expert in them all. And it really, for me, it's incredibly interesting. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me educated, learning about the world around me. And I love the variety. I really do. And I feel very lucky to be able to have a taste of such so many distinct industries and people. As you know, in our work, we meet a lot of different people. And it's always a great learning experience. And how do you stay hungry and stay curious and don't get kind of bored from the type of work we do and the clients that you have to manage? For me, it's hard to get bored because, again, I love social media. I love creating content for social media, and I love storytelling. But separate from that, social media is 24/7. That's what we always say. Social media is 24/7. So it's not like there's a ton of downtime regardless, even if I wanted there to be. But I think going back to I feel lucky in the sense that
I'm not bored yet. I can't say once in these 4 years that I've been bored. And we'll see how long that stays, but so far so good.
Good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Did you see how I put in the curious part of the question to relate it back to
did.
the cat? So just let you know I'm listening. I got you. I'm listening. What is something that scares you?
I don't love this question.
That's the whole point of asking it.
This podcast scared me. I mean, it's something new. I think anytime there's something new, there's an apprehension, there's jitters, anxiety. Good. It's good to have that adrenaline. I feel like when I launched Stretch Synergy, I had many more fears, quote unquote fears. Now I feel like I have challenges, and if something doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I think that way before going into a challenge, that I'm going to do my best, but it's not the be all end all.
Okay.
When I was younger, it would be more of a fear,
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think that's
You're still very young, by the way. And for the record, it did take Erika a few times to agree to do the podcast and to get it scheduled. So you got through your fear.
Yeah.
How'd you get through that small bit of fear?
That wasn't fear. That was more scheduling and crazy stuff during the holidays. But no, this wasn't a fear. This is something new. So
Yes.
It's exciting. But I think as an entrepreneur, and this too, Amani, you're going to encounter something new almost every day. So you have to kind of get comfortable with that prospect.
Is true. Preach. This is true. Now, the social media industry, in terms of professionals who create content, who manage people's social media, it's a very, very crowded space. How do you rise above all the noise and distinguish yourself as an industry leader?
To me, it's not rocket science. It's dedication. You do good work. You're there when your clients need you. You stay up late to figure out problems, and you know your limits, and you surround yourself with people who can help you achieve your goals and elevate you. You elevate each other. But I don't think there's a magic bullet. I think it's remaining dedicated and passionate and really putting your all in the work you're producing. And your clients will see that.
And what have you done to kind of surround yourself with the best type and group of people?
What have I done? You mean how I've found them? Or?
Yeah, like how have you found them? What have you done to kind of cultivate those relationships? Because you have a strong team of people that work for you, but also your peers and colleagues as well. What have you done to kind of develop that group of people? Because that's very difficult for some people. They are good by themselves, but when it comes time for them to maybe not necessarily get someone to work for them, but develop like a mastermind team or a team of people they can bounce ideas and business situations off of, is challenging for some people. So maybe you can share a few tips or what you've done to kind of find those people.
I think that's just like you would cultivate any relationship, a friendship, a romance. You have to listen to yourself, the type of people you respond well with. You have to be conscious of when you are with someone, how's the communication between you both? Are you understanding and are you listening to what each other is saying? How do you work together? Are your expectations the same? That's a big one, especially, in terms of professional life. Is this person producing work that I'm proud to put the Stretch name on? And on the other hand, I'm thinking, if someone's working with me, are they happy and proud to be working with me? So it's just being incredibly aware, surrounding yourself with people. I think this is both personal and professional that are positive, that bring you up, who you're able to have a discussion or a debate with, and still respect each other.
Yeah, you do that well. I had a little situation earlier this week where I was a little bit, in a funk, and Erika went out of her way to help me kind of talk it through and feel better. So I give you props for that. That's a good skill you have. So keep that skill. Keep talking to me, because we need each other. It's hard out here. The entrepreneur life is a lonely life. Now, how has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
So I don't love this question either.
This is the second question. You're like, I don't like this question.
Because I just, for me, How do I explain it? I don't like focusing on that negativity, and I don't necessarily want, I mean, yes, I've had failure, right? We all have had failure, but have you been, like, all failure is an opportunity if you're able to suck up your pride and analyze what went wrong.
Okay.
Even if whether that takes an hour or a year or a few years before you're able to do that. I'm definitely one of those people that thinks everything happens for a reason.
Okay.
Even the really, really crappy times, the failures. And I feel like I'm just like, this is what everyone says, but it's really what you make of it. So, and I don't know if lucky in this, but I haven't had a huge like life failure yet that has really just, turned the world upside down for me. I have, like I said, I have definitely tripped. I have had very embarrassing moments I wish I could, now that I know better, I would go back and change or go back and do things differently, things that, are all part of the learning experience. Some of them more crappy than others, but you learn from them. And I don't want to just focus on like one, you had someone on your podcast recently who, like, very inspirational story, broke all of her bones while skiing down a mountain, and that was her turning. Like, I haven't had something like that.
Right. But maybe there's like a memorable trip up that you had that really sticks with you or taught you a valuable lesson.
A verbal trip up.
Or it doesn't have to be verbal. It could be a memorable trip up, like maybe, working with a client, or maybe, you thought you were going to get a bid on a client. It didn't work out. I
think maybe, and this goes back to, again, just learning, with social media, sometimes, again, it never turns off and it's always on. And this is with any industry where you have multitude of clients. Sometimes one day, just all of your clients want all of you all at once. So being able to stay organized.
Yeah.
There's been one or two times, if any of my current clients are listening, this happened long before you were with me.
Disclaimer.
Where I've, like, something maybe got posted on the wrong channel. Things like that, which could theoretically be really bad. I mean, you hear stories, in BuzzFeed or something, a social media manager posted something they shouldn't have, or confused their personal account with their professional account. Things like that luckily it hasn't gotten to that scale with me. But that's kind of when you check yourself when something like that happened. Like, what was I doing? I was rushing too much. I wasn't being focused and paying attention and being careful with my work. So.
Okay. Even famous athletes like Kevin Durant, that happened to him. Finally had a couple burner Twitter accounts. So it happens to everyone. Tell us, how do you handle your critics? The haters. Because we know, you being a very popular and successful USC alum and someone who's very visible within the USC alumni system, we're sure you have a few haters out there. How do you handle them?
I think there's two ways to handle people that you might deem as critics. I think if you can, maybe listen to them and try to digest what they're saying. Maybe they're not saying it in a way that makes you feel good, but maybe they actually are noticing something or have something that you can learn from. Maybe they know something you don't, if you take the time to listen. That being said, if you do that or don't find that they have any, reason to be hating on you, then I say, ignore them, or better yet, use that adrenaline to push you further. I tend to think it's okay to get internally angry and frustrated with people who don't wish you the best, or people that put on a facade. That bothers me too. But if you can turn that into fuel, then you're better for it.
Preach. I agree 100%. Use it as fuel. Love it. Great answer. So this leads me to the final question out of this trio that kind of lets us dig a little deep here. Tell us about the darkest time in your life, how you got through that, and what did you learn from that experience?
I honestly feel like I just answered that when I said, like, I haven't, broken all my bones in a ski accident.
We don't want that for you either. Let's not put that out there.
But, like, I'm 32 years old. I'm not old, but I'm definitely old enough to have gone through some shitty.
Yes, keep going. Experiences.
Some crappy times in both my professional and my personal life. But more what I'd like to say is something that, as opposed to focusing on one moment, is to say that's something that's really helped me get through those moments that have been dark for me. Growing up, shout out to my dad, whenever things were difficult for me or he sensed I was having a bad day when I lived at home, a child or a teenager, he would always say 4 words. It says, "This too shall pass." And when I need to, I put those 4 words on repeat in my head and I don't think of anything else but those 4 words. No matter the situation, this too shall pass. And it might not be an hour or a day or even a month, but I've come to know those words to be true, that everything passes, even the really dark times. So for me, that mantra it's something so simple and so solitary and, but those 4 words have gotten me out of some really dark times.
Well said. Shout out to Mr. Crespo. I had the pleasure of working with him as we plan a surprise for Erika at her wedding. So you have to check out her wedding video to see what that surprise was. But it went well, so we were very happy.
It was awesome.
Yes.
Long story short, Amani taught my dad a rap, and he rapped it as his father of the bride speech.
Excellent.
And it was fantastic.
And we did it to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song, and he memorized it, so he didn't have any words. I was there as his hype man. It was spectacular. I was so proud. So shout out to Mr. Crespo. Let's see. Who was the most influential person for you growing up?
So that leads very nicely into my parents.
Yeah, segue.
My parents, by far, both of them, and both very equally. I'm an only child, so we're a very tight-knit unit. And they're definitely my biggest influence. And I was lucky to have 2 very independent parents who both worked in education and taught me the power of education, and were both leaders in their different schools and school districts and colleges. And I learned a lot from them. Yeah.
Good. The results are evident. So well done. Now, 21 years old, you were probably either just graduated or about to graduate from USC. If Erika from now could go back 11 years and sit down with 21-year-old Erika and share some advice, what would you share?
The lights just flickered, I think.
A ghost.
It's my future self coming back to say, what would you tell your 32-year-old self? I would say don't be so afraid. We're all in some sense faking it. No one is better than you. Some days you'll be the teacher and some days you'll get schooled, and it's all good. You have to learn to be comfortable and humble with both. Be a good person and work hard in both your professional and personal life. And don't get too excited or too sad about what people have to say. Actions are everything, and remember that when you speak. Will your actions match your words, or will you have to backtrack later? I feel like that's something that we're always learning and adjusting to.
Good advice. Anything else?
No.
You covered it. That was good.
Drink lots of water.
There you go. Some health advice too. What is the one lesson in life that has taken you the longest to learn so far?
Yeah, I'm still learning patience.
Ooh.
Still learning how to be patient.
Teach me.
And I think that's part of going back to being an entrepreneur. You have that drive and you want things now and you want things done and you want perfection, but that's not real life. You have to be patient. And that's something I'm still learning, but I've gotten a lot better at it in the last decade.
Yes, it is a constant challenge for everyone, especially entrepreneurs, because we want success right away. We want the biggest clients right away, and patience it's also difficult. It's a daily practice, so to speak. Every great person has a sentence. What is your sentence?
I create sentences every day. It's a part of what I do as a storyteller. So maybe something along those lines, helping people and organizations tell their story in a meaningful way. But to have one sentence,
One sentence.
Ask me again tomorrow. I'll have another one.
But that's a sentence for you today. That's what your answer is for today.
Yeah, today.
Okay. All right. That'll work. Well, maybe in your second interview, we'll let you revise that sentence. How about that? That'll work. What is one new habit that you've added to your daily routine in the past year or 2 or 3 that has been most beneficial?
Oh, most beneficial. I've added, I feel like a lot of little things that have really, I feel like have really improved, whether it's just my health or my outlook or my state of mind. For example, I drink warm water with lemon in the morning now. That's not something I used to do like in college or even right after college. And then I drink cappuccino in the afternoon now. You can thank my honeymoon in Italy for that, but I love that little like pick-me-up it gives. I've always been a huge fan of hot yoga. I love hot yoga, but what I've been integrating more recently is, not going all the way to an hour and a half class, but maybe doing like a 10-minute deep stretch in the middle of the day when I'm feeling run down or frustrated or just need to get the wiggles out. And that's really helped my frame of mind as well and relax me. And then I get out of this deep stretch and I'm ready. I feel like I've just taken a nap. So little things like that for my body. Yeah.
Good. Great habits. Deep. So hot yoga, is that different from Bikram or that's the same as Bikram?
Yeah, there's Bikram and there's hot yoga. Bikram has, you just had a yoga teacher on, so you might know more than me, but Bikram has like 26 specific poses or 27, something like that. And then some hot yoga studios, they just pump up the heat, blast the music and go through a flow. I like it all. I like to sweat.
Okay. Now we're big fans of books here on the Amani Experience podcast. So if there was 1, 2, or 3 books that you feel people should stop what they're doing right away and start to read them immediately, what books would they be? It can be fiction, nonfiction, your choice.
I grew up loving to read. And I have a lot of favorite books from that made an impact on me while I was, say, like a teenager. I don't know how relevant those would be for working professionals now.
Share away. We want to learn all the books.
How about like one of my favorite authors is F. Scott Fitzgerald. Everything he does, even when he's not writing poetry, comes out like poetry to me. So he was a big inspiration as a writer. There's another writer, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of him. His name's Terry Kay. He's from Georgia. He was one of my favorite authors growing up. Some romantic novels, some coming of age, some crime, good variety. But he was a really good storyteller. And I think anyone any age might enjoy his books. One of the recent books I've read is called Sin Bravely by Maggie Rowe. It just made like a top NPR book pretty recently. It's autobiographical. Maggie Rowe wrote about how she kind of got obsessed with Jesus and God and doing everything to get into heaven, so much so that she put herself in a mental institution. And it's her story of being in that institution and coming out of it. And I've been lucky to meet Maggie and do some work with her, and it's a really interesting story. Yeah.
Good. And any favorite F. Scott Fitzgerald books come to mind?
I mean, The Great Gatsby, right? But the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, I think it's a beautiful poem. It's like a novel of a poem, but it's...
Okay, Gotta check that out. We'll add all that to the show notes. So check out all that information there. Tell people how they can find you online.
So you can look me up on LinkedIn or I have my personal Instagram page, which isn't that personal. It's not locked, so you can follow me if you want to. It's Erikas Crespo, Erika S. Crespo, how to get that SC in there. Our Stretch Synergy, we have an Instagram. We have a Facebook and we have a Twitter.
So if we talk about social media, because you are very ingrained in that kind of space and industry, first of all, what platform is hot now? And then my follow-up question to that would be, looking ahead to 2018, what platform do you feel would be the hottest or whatever?
I think, and you probably know this too, Amani, we get that question a lot. People just assume we know.
That's why I have to ask it.
We know it's going to be the major platform. And I really think you can get in trouble by assuming one or talking up one or another, because I really think it depends on what you're promoting, what story you're trying to tell, who is your client. Not all clients belong on LinkedIn. Not all clients belong on Snapchat. At least that's how I treat my clients, is what makes most sense for them to be on. So I know there's a lot of like, at least in some recent conversations I have, people don't love Twitter, outside of our president tweeting a lot. Why are people on Twitter maybe? But I love Twitter. I love the conversations you can have on Twitter, especially as a brand connecting directly to people. So it depends,
Yeah.
what's best for what you're doing, what platform.
That's a great answer. That's the answer I expected you to make. So that's a great answer. It all depends on your market and who you're going after. All right. So we're just about finished. Usually when we leave the show, we let our guests give any advice or wisdom. And before that, I always like to just share thoughts. So, I've known Erika for over 6 years now. It's been a while. We met at Starbucks talking about business, and she was frustrated, but I've seen you grow immensely since I've met you. I'm so proud of the way your company has grown, and you've grown as a person, professionally and personally. And your story is inspiring to me. So I just want to urge you to keep going, keep it up, because I really, I watch what you're doing, and it keeps me motivated as well. So we're in this together, and I'm really proud of you. And so I just want you to take time to recognize your success. We don't have to get all crazy and celebrate, but just realize how far you've come in the 6.5 years I've known you, even before that. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Amani. That means a lot coming from you, because it's very vice versa.
Thank you. And just, you're a mentor for many, many people coming up, and people talk about you in the most positive of fashion. So keep that going. And thank you for being on the show. I'm glad we got to make it happen.
It's a great way to kick off the holidays.
Yes, and it won't be the last time you're on the show.
No, I'll have a different sentence next time.
Yes, that's the first question I'm going to ask you. So as we go, what other wisdom or advice do you have for our listeners out there about, personally, professionally, and we'll let that lead us to the end of the show.
Final advice. Specifically for entrepreneurs, I guess, would be think about it, but don't overthink it. I think that's a lot of what there's people get to a point of, I'm going to do this, 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 and then forget to jump and actually do it. You can only control so much. It's going to work out or it's not. It's not the end of the world. Nothing is the end of the world unless only the end of the world.
Yes, right? Life, death, really.
Yes, and I feel like a lot of people put a lot of weight on, am I going to succeed as an entrepreneur or am I not? Do good work, take the leap, and hopefully you'll succeed. Just don't be afraid not to take it, or you think you're going to regret it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for being on the show, Baby Red.
Thanks, Monty.
You're welcome. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Amani Experience Podcast. You can check out the show notes on amaniexperience.com/podcast. Please remember to leave us a review on the platform you are listening on, and share this podcast with anyone who you feel would benefit from listening. See you soon on our next episode.